Hey Raiders fans, buckle up because today we're diving deep into some of the most intriguing news Las Vegas has made this offseason. And honestly, some of these decisions are making a lot of people scratch their heads. If you take a close look at the 53-man roster, there are two names that immediately stand out: Aiden O'Connell and Thomas Harper. Now, on paper, this seems strange because both of these guys are dealing with injuries. O'Connell has a fractured wrist, which could keep him sidelined for 6 to 8 weeks, and Harper, well, he got hurt in the very first preseason game, only playing a single snap before being forced to leave the field. Normally, you would expect players in these situations to be placed on short-term injured reserve, especially with the NFL's rules that have changed recently. Players on short-term IR now miss at least the first 4 weeks, but have to be activated by week 5, otherwise they're out for the season. So why would the Raiders keep 2 injured players on the active roster? That's the question that has been buzzing around the fan base. One theory is that the team might be planning something bigger, whether it's trades, future free agent signings, or just having options ready once these guys are healthy. O'Connell could be a trade piece, or someone the team wants to keep around as a backup, while Harper brings versatility, able to play both safety and nickel corner. The strategy here might be about maximizing flexibility without blocking opportunities for younger players who might otherwise be claimed on waivers if they were cut. It's fascinating because when you layer in the release of Terrell Edmunds, the move starts to make even more sense. Edmunds was getting first-team reps in the preseason and was seen by many as a lock to make the roster. Cutting him open space for these injured players to remain on the roster without taking away opportunities from younger players who need the chance to showcase themselves. In essence, the Raiders appear to be balancing respect for player development with strategic planning for the season ahead. This isn't just about filling a roster. It's about positioning the team to be ready for anything that might come their way in the first few weeks. When you look at the offensive side of the ball, there's a lot to be excited about. The Raiders have assembled what could be a top 10 unit in the league. There's talent across skill positions, and the offensive line is solid, providing protection and creating opportunities for playmakers. The quarterback room, however, is where things get interesting. O'Connell's injury does create a gap, and while Kenny Pickett has been brought in as a starter, the Raiders might be considering a third quarterback option just to have a safety net. This is not necessarily someone who will start, but someone who can step in if there's an injury or if the offense needs a spark. The quarterback market has some interesting names, and while the Raiders aren't looking to outshine Pickett or their starter, having a viable third option could make all the difference in a tight division. Defensively, the situation is more complex. The Raiders know that the season is going to challenge them in the secondary, especially if injuries pile up. The decision to keep Harper around speaks to this. He offers versatility, able to cover safety duties or drop into the nickel corner role. This flexibility is crucial because it allows the coaching staff to adapt quickly without sacrificing quality on the field. But even with Harper and other key pieces, the secondary remains a top concern. Fans and analysts alike are watching closely to see how the team will address potential holes. And there are a few high-profile names out there that could fit the Raiders' system perfectly, whether through trades or waiver claims. The defensive line is another area of interest. Charles Snowden, a key piece of the rotation, is facing a potential suspension at some point this season, which could create a void at defensive end. Tyreek Wilson has been moved around, trying out a defensive tackle, but the team clearly needs additional depth at the edge. This is why defensive end targets have been floated around as potential big moves. The team is clearly thinking ahead, planning for contingencies that could arise over the long season. Depth here is not just about rotation. It's about protecting the team from setbacks and maintaining consistency when injuries inevitably occur. On the waiver front, there are multiple players who could make an immediate impact. From versatile safeties who can double as nickel corners to defensive backs with experience in the NFL, the Raiders have options that could strengthen the roster without needing to trade high-value assets. The front office is likely weighing each move carefully, balancing the short-term impact with long-term strategic goals. Moves like these can be subtle, but have huge consequences for how the team performs in the first month of the season. Another key point to consider is the respect the Raiders management shows toward young players. By keeping injured players like O'Connell and Harper on the roster temporarily, the team avoids cutting younger athletes who might otherwise miss out on practice squad opportunities or the chance to catch on with another team. This approach speaks to a culture that values player development and fairness, while also giving the team tactical flexibility. It's not just about wins. It's about building a system where players feel valued and motivated. Looking forward, the Raiders' offensive strategy is strong, but the defensive strategy is where the season might be decided. The secondary, defensive line, and linebacker core all have areas that could use reinforcements. Strategic acquisitions, whether from trades or waiver claims, will be crucial. Safeties with versatility, cornerbacks who can cover multiple positions, and defensive ends with pass-rushing ability are all pieces that could shift the balance in key games. The team's ability to maneuver through injuries, roster limits, and strategic needs will be tested early, and how they respond could define the season. The quarterback room, while secure in terms of talent, is another area where flexibility matters. Having a third viable option gives the coaching staff insurance, especially in a league where injuries happen quickly. Even a minor injury to a starter can have massive ripple effects on game planning and offensive consistency. The Raiders are clearly aware of this and appear to be preparing contingencies to ensure they are never caught flat-footed. In terms of defensive backfield priorities, names like Justin Simmons and John Johnson are floating in the background as potential targets, with the team evaluating both skill sets and how they fit into the existing roster. Harper's ability to slide into multiple roles also factors heavily into this calculus. Essentially, the Raiders are thinking in layers, not just replacing positions, but enhancing the unit overall with depth, versatility, and players who can immediately contribute in multiple ways. The defensive front is equally nuanced. With potential suspensions looming and position shifts already in play, the need for additional defensive ends is clear. Players like Janavion Clown and other free agent options provide potential stopgap solutions or even long-term contributors if they fit the scheme. Defensive tackles are solid, but the Raiders are always looking for upgrades that can maintain pressure throughout the season. Maintaining a competitive edge here could be the difference in high-stakes divisional matchups, especially in games that may become high-scoring affairs. What makes all of this interesting is the blend of strategy and respect that permeates the Raiders' front office. Decisions aren't just about immediate wins. They're about preserving future options, protecting player careers, and maintaining roster flexibility. The mix of injured veterans, versatile defenders, and strategic depth acquisitions paint a picture of a team that is methodical, thoughtful, and always thinking 2 steps ahead. The bottom line is that while the offense is poised to compete at a high level, the defense is the true variable that will determine the Raiders' success. The secondary, defensive line, and edge rushers are all under scrutiny, and how the team addresses these positions over the coming weeks could make or break their season. The decisions surrounding Harper, O'Connell, and other roster moves are just the tip of the iceberg in a complex, multi-layered strategy aimed at keeping the team competitive and resilient. Now, diving deeper into the secondary, this is really where the Raiders' offseason strategy becomes fascinating. When you look at the roster, it's clear that the team recognizes the secondary as a priority, particularly with the potential absence of key contributors early in the season due to injuries. Thomas Harper, for instance, is a player who can be both a safety and a nickel corner, giving the coaching staff flexibility when designing coverages. But the Raiders can't rely solely on Harper's versatility. They need additional reinforcements to maintain stability throughout the season. The NFL is unforgiving when it comes to defensive breakdowns, and even one missed assignment can change the momentum of a game. That's why the front office has likely been assessing multiple players who could fill roles in free safety, strong safety, and cornerback positions. From a strategic perspective, the Raiders are looking for players who offer versatility. A safety who can move into a nickel role or a cornerback who can cover multiple types of receivers provides insurance against both injury and matchup challenges. The ideal player not only fits the scheme, but can adapt to different formations and play styles. This is especially critical in the modern NFL, where offenses are increasingly dynamic and unpredictable. Raiders fans can expect the team to target athletes with range, physicality, and intelligence, players who can read plays, react quickly, and make adjustments on the fly. This isn't about just filling a roster spot. It's about enhancing the unit's ability to respond to the fast pace of the league. One name that has surfaced in discussions around free safeties is Justin Simmons, a player who brings leadership, ball skills, and proven performance at a high level. If the Raiders were able to bring him in, it would instantly upgrade the secondary. Another interesting candidate is John Johnson, a versatile center fielder who has shown the ability to cover ground and provide support both over the top and in the box. Marcus Epps, recently released by the Patriots, is another player who could offer depth and athleticism, while Mike Edwards brings prior experience in the AFC West, which means familiarity with opponents and schemes. Jalen Mills and Jordan Whitehead are also on the radar, largely due to their connections with the current coaching staff and front office. These relationships can be pivotal, not just in evaluating talent, but in integrating a player seamlessly into the team's culture and system. Trades are another option. Kyle Duggar, for example, has been discussed as a potential target. While his situation in New England may have limited his playing time recently, he possesses the athletic traits and intelligence the Raiders value. A trade for Duggar could be structured as a one-year prove-it deal, giving the team flexibility without committing significant guaranteed money. The key here is the Raiders' ability to identify players who are undervalued or underutilized elsewhere, but can immediately contribute in their system. It's a strategic approach that balances risk and reward while keeping salary cap flexibility intact. Moving to the cornerback position, this is where depth becomes even more crucial. The departure of Terrell Edmunds, coupled with Harper's temporary absence or limited availability, puts pressure on the coaching staff to find players who can handle multiple roles in the defensive backfield. A nickel corner is essential in today's NFL, where offenses frequently deploy 3 or 4 wide receiver sets. Beanie Bishop Jr., for instance, has shown flashes of playmaking ability and could be a strong candidate for the nickel role. While he may have been targeted more often in previous games, his ability to contest passes, generate turnovers, and provide physical coverage makes him a player worth watching. Juju Brent, a cornerback from Kansas State, is another intriguing option. His height, length, and versatility make him an ideal candidate to fit the Raiders' defensive philosophy. He can line up outside or inside, depending on matchups, and offers the ability to contribute on special teams, a factor often overlooked but critical in maintaining depth across the roster. Israel Mwamu is a player whose hybrid skill set as a safety and nickel corner could provide similar flexibility. Standing 6'4" and weighing around 205 pounds, he offers both size and athleticism, making him capable of handling multiple responsibilities. The Raiders value this kind of player because it allows the team to adjust schemes on the fly without sacrificing talent on the field. At the end of the day, the Raiders' offseason moves illustrate a team thinking beyond individual games. The secondary, the defensive line, and depth across all positions are being addressed not just reactively, but proactively. Injuries, suspensions, and performance inconsistencies are all accounted for in the planning, which suggests a level of foresight that fans should be encouraged by. This is a team building not just for the next week, but for sustained competitiveness across the entire season. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on our Las Vegas Raiders. And don't be shy. Drop your thoughts on the news in the comments below. The sports world is buzzing with one of the most unexpected and electrifying trades of the season. Myles Garrett, the dominant defensive end who has terrorized quarterbacks for years with the Cleveland Browns, is now officially a member of the Las Vegas Raiders. Sources close to the teams confirm that the deal is finalized, sparking a frenzy among fans and analysts alike, who are already speculating about the seismic shift this could cause in both teams' defenses. Rumors had swirled for weeks about Garrett's dissatisfaction in Cleveland, his contract situation, and the potential suitors willing to pay a premium for his talents. But no one expected the Raiders to land the star pass rusher so decisively. Insiders hint that multiple teams were in late-stage negotiations, with the Browns fielding offers that would reshape their roster, Yet Las Vegas managed to secure the agreement with a combination of draft picks, players, and strategic incentives. The move has created an immediate buzz across social media platforms, with fans of both teams debating the fairness, the logic, and the potential consequences of such a high-stakes swap. Analysts are already projecting the impact on the Raiders' defensive schemes, envisioning a unit transformed by Garrett's explosive presence and unmatched skill set. The atmosphere around the Raiders franchise is electric, as the city of Las Vegas prepares to welcome one of the league's most feared defenders with open arms, anticipating a new era of dominance in the AFC West. Speculation continues to grow about how this trade will influence other potential moves, with whispers suggesting that more significant roster adjustments could be on the horizon as teams react to this monumental development. Every detail of the deal is under intense scrutiny, and the implications are expected to ripple through the league for years to come. This is more than just a trade. It's a statement, a declaration that the Raiders are serious contenders and are willing to take bold, decisive action to elevate their status. The locker room dynamics, fan expectations, and coaching strategies are all in flux as the dust begins to settle on this headline-making maneuver, leaving the NFL community buzzing with speculation, excitement, and a hint of controversy. Myles Garrett's arrival in Las Vegas marks a turning point for a team that has long sought an identity and a defensive cornerstone capable of altering the course of games. The Raiders' management reportedly spent months evaluating the best approach to enhance their pass rush, exploring trade scenarios, contract negotiations, and a long-term vision for the roster before ultimately deciding that acquiring Garrett was worth every calculated risk. While insiders reveal that the Browns were initially reluctant to part ways with one of the league's most dominant defensive talents, tensions surrounding Garrett's contract, team culture, and the pursuit of championship contention eventually led to an agreement that satisfies both parties, at least on paper. Fans are reacting with a mixture of shock, excitement, and apprehension, debating the trade's fairness and pondering how Garrett's presence will reshape the Raiders' defensive alignment. Analysts are dissecting game tape, projecting how his skills will synergize with the current roster, and predicting the disruptive effect he could have on opposing quarterbacks. Speculation about complementary moves is rampant, with rumors suggesting the Raiders might explore additional trades or free agent signings to bolster an already formidable defensive unit. The buzz extends beyond the field, as media outlets, podcasts, and social media influencers dissect every nuance of the deal, from the logistics to the strategic implications, fueling a firestorm of opinion and anticipation. There is talk that Garrett's leadership and intensity will influence the locker room culture, setting a tone of accountability and competitiveness that could elevate the team's overall performance. Observers note that the psychological impact on opponents cannot be understated, as the mere presence of a player of Garrett's caliber demands adjustments in game planning and offensive strategy. Discussions continue to swirl regarding potential coaching adjustments, scheme shifts, and the ripple effect on both the Raiders and Browns' futures, with insiders hinting at further moves that could reshape the AFC landscape. The trade has effectively sent shockwaves through the league, positioning Las Vegas as a serious contender and leaving Cleveland's fan base grappling with the loss of one of their most electrifying and influential defensive stars. The excitement surrounding Garrett's move is amplified by the narrative of his career trajectory, from a highly touted draft pick to a perennial Pro Bowler who has consistently redefined the defensive end position. Observers have long marveled at his blend of speed, strength, and technique, which allows him to dominate in pass rush situations, disrupt offenses, and change the momentum of games single-handedly. Now, with Garrett donning the silver and black, speculation is rampant about how the Raiders' coaching staff will integrate his skill set into a broader defensive strategy, perhaps shifting schemes to maximize his impact and create mismatches against opposing offensive lines. Fans are buzzing with discussions about which players might see their roles altered, who will benefit from Garrett's presence, and which opponents will struggle most in light of this acquisition. Rumors have surfaced suggesting that the Raiders may adjust their roster further to surround Garrett with complementary talent, potentially pursuing additional defensive linemen or edge rushers to create a dominant front that can consistently pressure quarterbacks. Analysts argue that Garrett's leadership on and off the field will bring an edge to the team, fostering a culture of accountability and performance excellence that could elevate the performance of his teammates. Social media chatter emphasizes not only the immediate impact on the Raiders' defensive statistics, but also the broader implications for the AFC West, where rival teams must now contend with a dramatically enhanced defensive force. Reports hint at internal team discussions in Las Vegas regarding strategy, rotation, and game day utilization, reflecting the seriousness with which Garrett's arrival is being approached. Beyond the tactical considerations, there is a cultural and symbolic aspect to the trade, as Garrett's presence signals the Raiders' ambition to contend for championships and to make bold moves that define their identity. The league-wide reaction is palpable, with experts debating whether this trade might trigger a domino effect of roster maneuvers across multiple teams, each responding to the sudden appearance of one of the NFL's most feared defenders in a new setting. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Las Vegas Raiders, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.